Hey, good afternoon, everybody. How are we doing today? Andrew Bennett here, uh, Traders Club TWC team, and just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful holiday. And happy early New Year, right? It's coming up soon here in the next couple days. Hopefully, you be safe out there. I know driving is not a good idea, obviously, on New Year's Eve. If you can avoid that, please do. So anyway, it's been a little while. I've been busy. A lot of family has been over, so I haven't seen any updates from me in a little bit. But that doesn't mean that there's not some heavy, crazy things happening out there. And sure enough, STEM has done some amazing things. Here's the daily chart. We're just going to jump right into it. And last week Thursday, I would actually, I'm sorry, last week Tuesday. Then there was the holiday of Christmas. So right in between there, we came into this low here and actually technically made a lower low, but by a fraction of a penny. Okay, um, I think it's right here. 30 cents, 30.29. So 3029 was the lowest low, and the previous low was 3031. So two fractions here. And that's pretty interesting because now we can look at this as a larger Wyckoff um, accumulation because of what we've seen recently. So there was no breakdown. Actually, on that daily candle, it dojied. It's right here. Okay. It came down, and we're just going to show you how much volume is there. Now, there's not a whole lot of volume here either, so it's actually more volume in this case. But it dojied back up, and buyers came in and bought it out as it was trying to drop down. It also came down to the daily S1, which is important because it was hitting the daily pivot a lot, as you can see here. So one, two, three, four, five. I mean, a bunch of times. A good amount of days here in the beginning of the month broke down. It came back. It almost hit the S1 here, came back up again, and then went back down again. So pivot S1, and blast. And that was a very nice price action on the dailies. Likely we like to see something like that. So it made a new low, and then it did a 1, 2, and then blasted off. So this is what I was looking for earlier in this area here, was this blast off. We didn't get it. We had this more of a breakdown. So now it needs to be looked at as a more of a correctional wave here altogether. But now it really looks like Wyckoff accumulation, 100% because of this blast off and the up volume, the spike of volume. Really, now it is a spike. It is a couple of spikes of volume. It's not really a ramp up of volume, so that's has me a little bit hesitant there, to be honest. But I mean, this blasted through all the daily pivots within a couple days. That's incredible. And so it tells me that there were a lot of shorts that got liquidated. I'm assuming maybe they got liquidated here, thinking that it was going to go down some more, knowing that it made a lower low, and it just absolutely got crushed. So, what a great trade this has become. And now this is looking even better as a double bottom. I talked about that too, where this was one bottom, this is second bottom, double bottom. When you look at the daily RSIs, actually, I'll go to the 3 day. RSI is lower on the higher wick, essentially, technically. So there's low RSI volume here, or low RSI. It's low in the RSI is what I'm trying to say, and then it comes back down again, and it's much higher on the RSI, and it actually holds on the moving average of the yellow RSI here. Just fantastic to see this. double bottom potentially playing out, because to be at the calling these bottoms here, and to see this really ramp up, and now to see this current 3-day candle. It still has a day and a couple hours left, of course, but so that would mean they'll close tomorrow, right before the New Year's Day. To see this type of candle spread with this volume is really, really cool. Now, we need to continue to see follow through. Of course, this doesn't mean like, okay, bottom's in, it's go time to $10 or something. Okay, this is I've kind of went back to see if there was anything that was similar to this, and they did have a range here, last year and a half ago, and it popped out and then it came back down and broke down. So it is possible to go into a range, but there was really nothing much to go off of. There was this one here, that cluster, and then it was really just, this is tiny. It's really just breakdown after breakdown. So I can count this as the A, B, C here, and this is the B. So the 1, 2, 3, and then here's the B, and then we got it 1, 2, 3. Wait, it's such a long 1, 2, 3 comes down in here to complete it. So, when I first saw this stem waterfall action, where it just kind of waterfalls down, that was a kind of a sign of a bottom. It also went into the weekly S1. Here's our trade, by the way. Our trade did not hit the stop loss. Okay, the stop loss was set at 29.9 cents. Did not go into 29. It stayed in the 30s. So pretty wild. And now it's just, it's crushing now. It's almost hit the first target at right around 109. What an awesome weekly candle though. So it comes down, weekly's up strong, comes down again, even stronger weekly, and look at this volume. The volume is showing up here. Okay, it showed up a lot here as it was coming down this area, and now it's showing up as it's coming out of it. So this is great. This is exactly what we want to see. Is it mean that it's it and that's the bottom and it's going to go up? No, it doesn't mean that, but it's starting to look that way. It's starting to go in the direction we want it to go. So it's just fantastic. This is, there's not, it's clearly not a lot of volume here in the daily, but to just see this kind of ramp up and come out of here and out of this range that it's been in for a while is just really good. So since it went into this range, obviously September, really. So, all of the end of the last quarter, essentially, it's been in this range. This is just great. So I'd like to see how this follows through. It's obviously going to have a pullback at some point, but right now it's really just taking out a lot of shorts. And when shorts start to get liquidated in this fashion, those shorts are, then looking at this as, okay, is this a bottom and could we go long in something like this? So, you have to kind of look at it in that point of view too. People that have been shorting this for a long time have made a lot of money, essentially, if they were shorting from the top. And they might see this as a reversal in the shorting world and going long. So it's going to start, if people were heavily shorting this and now losing out of this and seeing this kind of action coming out of it, they might start to get out of that even more. More and more shorts might be coming out of their positions, and maybe even setting up potential longs because they see that this is also a bottom. Other people, right? Institutional, whatever. So there was a little bit of news on it too, but I follow the chart. I don't necessarily follow the news, but I did find that there was some rumors about them having government contracts. I don't know how true that is. I really don't care, to be quite honest. I just want to see follow through. So what I don't want to see this being is like coming up here and then literally starting to come all the way back down. Okay, that would be just absolutely brutal. If that's the case, then this is just all correctional. okay, what I'm saying is that I don't want to see this like kind of top out right here because it kind of filled maybe a gap and then just start to kind of do this, you know, and just making it his way to a lower low. That's obviously would be bad, and then I would just be completely out of this and it'd probably watch it, but probably not get back into a trade or something for who knows how long. So we want to see this kind of hold up. Maybe do a pullback. If this is because this is Wyckoff too, you got to see that if it's jumping the creek right now, it's going to retest that creek, and it might have already did that. It's kind of hard to say with these candles because there's a lot of wick in between. So I'm just going to keep following this and see where it's heading. But again, if it starts to really break down, obviously getting back to the lows of the 30 range, then I'm going to really think that this is just all correctional, which would be really sad. But it is what it is, right? But if it's not, then it's going to be very nice. And I'm really excited to see it. It almost hit $1. I mean, it went from 30 cents to 88 cents in like 3 days. That's incredible. I mean, that's so nice. And think about that. A lot of people, like if you got like, right, you have a big portfolio and you're like, you found this like how we did and you came in heavy, to be already up double and to know that there's a lot more potential to come in at 30 cents, to see this thing almost go to 90 and have potential to go to $1.50, maybe even $2. That's incredible money very quickly. It's very much kind of like an altcoin in a way. So it's just great to see this. So anyway, that's STEM. Next is Target, TGT. So, I've talked about this being finished as a 2 down here. So we got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 count going. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we hit this resistance area here because we see that we tapped it 3 times. So then that was our beginning of our correction here. So we got the 1, 2, 3 for A, and then we got the 1, 2, 3 B, and now we're worked on the 1, 2, 3 for the C. So it's a good clean ABC down. Okay, that's really nice to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B, and then 1, 2, 3 for C. This is very clean right now. 1, 2. I mean, every count here that I've seen on the 1 hour for TGT matches up with Wyckoff very nice. Okay, this even came down at 50% level too. The daily shows here, look, it's a nice 50% pullback or just a hair above it. That's awesome. That's what we want to see. We want to see that 50% pullback. You can also see that this definitely looked like a B because of the wick, but then it comes down and it doesn't really do much, and then it starts to pop back up again. So that's very clean. I just want to take it back to the 1 hour here real quick because I want to let you all know that I am thinking about going long here very, very, very soon. Because if this is a 1, 2, we are now working on a 1, 2. So that's what I want to jump in is that 1, 2, 1, 2, and that's what we're about to see. So from the C here, the bottom, we got the 1, 2, 3. Here's the 3 with the big candlestick, right? That shows that that's a wave 3 because of the candlestick and the volume. That's what we want to see. So what I'm thinking here is this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 pullback, and we're working on a 5 to come back to this green resistance area, which is also near the R1, which is perfect. I'd love to see this happen this week, if it's possible. I like to see a 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is what I want to see. Oh, I keep doing that. So I want to see a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Something like this. Kind of struggles with this a little bit. Maybe like that, breaks down, and then come back to the pivot. That's where I want to go. That's my entry point. So the entry point is really close to where it's at now, but I want to see this play out to help build confidence in this count, in this Elliott wave count. Because you might be like, well, why don't you just go in now? well, I could go in now, yeah, and I would set my stop loss at the pivot, but this is going to give me more confidence in this, right? Now, there's also this thought too, and I want to be honest, because this is it's if this starts to really pull up and start going, then I'm going to feel a little bit bummed because this might be 5 here, but it's so quick, and it seems like like a 4 pullback. So I'm not convinced yet because you see, I only went to the 382. I pulled the fibs on this thing, and it wasn't going far and back enough. So I really want to see this. This is why I think it's going to go up higher, because when I go up to look the R1, see how the 5 is back to the pivot. So that's why I think that we're still going to have one more wave up, like how this green arrows are showing, and then we come back down to the pivot. And I think this is all happening probably this week, because this is the 1 hour. So this is, this could happen within the next day or two, where we kind of go up here. It's starting doji a little bit, so that would be the 1-2, come back up here. So, maybe I'm being a little bit nitpicky here and waiting for the exact moment, which I'll tell you right now does sometimes will bite you in the butt if you wait for like the perfect moment. So it's not. I mean, to go in right here is not terrible. It's really not. And maybe I end up doing that. I don't know. And putting the pivot as a stop loss. But it could pull back a little bit. I just wanted to see this pull back here one more time, because I didn't like the fib levels. So that's kind of where I'm at. And this really just feels like a 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's where I'm at mentally. Your decision, but I do feel like it's going back here. Now, see how it's going back into that resistance? If it goes up, hits that, and then pulls back, that's fine. But if it goes to R1 and then literally is holding up there, then that could also be a long too, because maybe this turns into support and it wants to continue. Either way, overall, I see this as a breakout 1, 2, and now we're working for 3. This is all inside this larger channel. Okay, it came down, throw under on the channel, came right back up. That's a good sign. That was my larger 2. It even has kind of a cup and handle kind of look to it. See how it's kind of rounded the bottom and back up again. So I want to and it's testing now the EQ of this channel. So there's a lot of things that if I start seeing break up here and then coming back and then testing the EQ, then maybe my count was a little bit off, and that would be another long position too. So if it comes back up here, now this pivot is not really good anymore, because we're going to go into not only going into a new month, we're going into a new year. So we'll have to see how pivots change, which will be nice to see. But overall, I really like what's happening with Target here, and I want to jump in here. So there's going to be probably going to be posting this really soon. I'm just looking for the right spot. Okay, next is this is going to be maybe a little odd to some of you, but MRNA. I was doing some just kind of scrolling around, online and on YouTube or whatever, and I saw someone talking about MRNA, and that somebody at Barron's or somebody picked it as a stock that they're going into for 2025. And I said, that's interesting. I haven't looked at Moderna in a long time, and it clearly had this massive run. We all know why. I don't think I need to say why, but well, this is interesting, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to look at this thing, and I started pulling some fibs. I started doing some counts, and I could see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's really cool to see. And then I see that the larger A, B, and then what looks like to be a C. And this is the weekly, by the way. And look at this. This is interesting here. I'm going to tell you guys a couple things. Number one, it went right into, well, first of all, it went into the S1. Okay, weekly S1. That's one thing to watch. Number two, it went right into a fair value gap on the weekly. And it's like the only real true fair value gap out of all this that was left, because this is all chopped over here. This was a breakout fair value gap from an area where it had a breakout point of a 1-2. That is super interesting to me, and this is a potential buy opportunity right now. Okay, this is not financial advice. If you're going to do something like this, you need to discuss with any purchases or buying with financial advisor. I'm not one, but how I look at this is that the 1-2 was here, and then look at all these taps into the green on the weekly. This was resistance, and then it finally broke out, and it had this large candle right here, and that created that fair value gap, and it never went back into that. It never even tested this because it was so bullish because of, they created the vaccine that everybody was using. And so, and now when I pull fibs, if this is 5 up, the 0.705 level, which is the institutional level that Chris talks about, is right in that green. Okay, that's not a coincidence. And look where price is at again. It went and tapped the green. It literally filled the fair value gap. It filled it. It like almost perfectly. Okay, so that is crazy, crazy good. And when I count this, it looks like one, two, like here it goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to complete C. Right? And now it's got this like bounce, and it's coming back, and it might be finding support. This right here, if is a buy. Honestly, it really is. This is a buy. I mean, this is going into a zone where you should, if you're deal with technical analysis like we do here, this is what you want to look for. This is exactly what you want to look for. And I'll tell you another thing too. Look at all this. Okay, when it's going through that bull market, look at all the look how, obviously volume ramped up, right? And then it had some spikes, because it hit some high levels and it came back down. All that volume. Well, then as it's been breaking down and no one cares about it anymore, the volume literally died off. But look what's happening right here. The volume is starting to ramp up. The volume is ramping up. That is a sign, I'm telling you right now. And lastly, I'm not going to go into some weird conspiracy, but it's kind of interesting. If you're watching the news, they're talking about, some new things going around. You know, I'm not going to say things because I don't want to get banned, but there's different FLUs going around with BIRDs, okay, and I don't know. It's just weird timing. That's weird timing, and so this to me it seems to be, and that's just dealing with the news, of course. As looking at the chart, this goes back to a good level. This is finding support where it was strong resistance, and it was a breakout. It's going back to the breakout, and it's filled the gap. Okay, RSIs are extremely low. Okay, I mean the Fisher went down to lows it never went to before. But I'll tell you right now, the regular RSI on the weekly is finding support with the moving average, and it looks like it's wanting to curl. I mean, I gotta tell you, this would be crazy, but this could be a 1-2. This whole thing. That would be crazy. Okay, I'm telling you right now, there's something going on here. Um, this is a find. This is almost. I gotta tell you right now, this is almost better than the stem find, in my opinion. I just want to show something. One sec. And this is just unreal. This is a 1-2 with the. I mean, look at the fib extensions. It's crazy. There's no way. This what's going to happen is, okay, if this thing really starts to take off, they'll probably do like a stock split to bring the price down. But right now, if I pull fibs, even at the 1-to-1 level, it's 1,572. That's the 1-to-1. So this is just a, an ABC, right? It's at $39 right now. Okay. So if it starts to really take off like it did here, and it gets like super high, like into 1,000 or whatever, they might talk about a stock split because they want to bring there's so many people buying it. They want to split it up. Yeah, you all probably know it's why people stock split. But I mean, if this is a 1-2, the 3 is at 16,000. Now, if there's a stock split, and if it's a 10-to-1, you can see how that would bring it right back down, to who knows what. I don't know if that would be maybe 600 or whatever. So that would, not look as bad because the all-time high was $500. Okay, was it 500 exactly? Oh, 497. Okay, 500 essentially. So if it starts to really rack up and go into the thousands, and they do a stock split and it brings it back down, to whatever 5-to-1, it's not gonna, it's not gonna say 16,000, but it's gonna say maybe like 1,600 or whatever. I don't know. That's just me, you know, in a theory. But again, overall though, this is a really good pullback to nearly this 0.705. It filled the weekly fair value gap. It's hitting the S1. This looks like a 5 waves up and a 3 waves down. It's checking off a lot of boxes here. Okay. And there's a lot of talk in the news about certain things and what have you. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm just gonna say it's interesting, right? So this is definitely on the radar for sure. You might even see me say, you know what, everybody, I bought some MRNA. I might so. I don't know. Now, if it loses this level and starts to really keep breaking down, then obviously this is not what I'm talking about. But right now, where it's at is very key. And with the volume starting to move up, that's something to absolutely watch for. Okay. So, it could actually, last thing is I actually could see it actually coming down and then coming right back up again with some strong volume, and maybe even showing a bull dip on the weekly. That would be really cool if it did that. Like if it came down and just barely went into the $35 level, but that's how close this could be. We're talking about dollars here at this point. It could maybe create a bull dip. So I don't know. This is definitely on the radar. MicroStrategy, okay. MSTR. Um, I just want to quickly talk about. Remember how we were, how I brought up the fact that it was struggling with the pivot and it broke down. Well, and then my target was down here to the 286 level, or this green, this gap. Well, it got close to it, so it's starting to really break down now. But this now looks like it's completing, because I don't think this is done overall. I think this is maybe just a 3 and 4, and now it's starting to look like a wedge. So the wedge, actually, you could even draw the wedge here, like that, because it bounced, and now it's actually doing a throw under of the wedge, which is even better. And look, it's doing a hammer candle, and it's doing it at the 0.5 level. So this is looking like it's ready to start reversing, possibly. Excuse me. RSIs are looking good. They're in the low ranges to want to curl back up with Stoke and Fisher. The only RSI that I don't like is the standard RSI, because it's under the EQ or the blue line, and it's under the moving average. So what we want to see is, that's why we draw the wedge, because if it's going to break out above here, it's going to break out of this hammer and come back up, and then hit the top of the wedge and then come back down, and that would probably be the long opportunity if you wanted to jump, if you were like looking for a spot to get in the MicroStrategy. So this is kind of like that. This would be the situation to do this, and then they would kind of do this, and then they would do the break. Okay, and see the 50 MA moving average, the red line. All right, so what would be cool is that you see how it broke down, but it's doing a hammer candle. So if it comes back up and closes above it, and then taps this wedge, and then comes back down to test the MA, that's your spot. This is a good example of a wedge because it has the straight kind of shot here, and it had this range here too. In wedges you'll find these in the beginning of wedges you'll find these ranges, and then it kind of taps the last point of the range. Like in this case, it was distribution maybe, and then it comes down, and that's kind of your last point of the wedge point there. So that's how I identify wedges. In this case, they're not, there's not like a perfect like formula for a wedge, but this is a good idea of one, in my opinion. And because we bounced here really nice, and now we're doing a hammer candle here at the 50, I think this is in a good spot here. So what I'm ultimately saying is I don't think it actually does now fill the gap. I think it just kind of made people think that it might, including myself. But I really actually think we might jump from here, and that's going to lead me into Bitcoin here. Hold on. Yeah, I guess I don't need to look at other things because I don't want to take too long. Okay, so remember the chart I showed you on Bitcoin, the 3-day like zoom out chart. Just calm down, and like trust me, my emotions. Everyone has emotions, right? We got to be able to control them. Well, what have I told you about this chart is that the EQ is important, right? The EQ has shown resistance and support throughout this whole bull run since November of 22. Okay, so this is a very important EQ. Okay, and sure enough, and it hit here at 1, and it hit right almost going into the red, and it came down for the 2. Well, here we go. Fast forward to now, and it's been above this EQ. Remember that Darth Maul we had? And I was like, yeah, see, it's still above the EQ. Well, it's been breaking down, okay? And then the candle was breaking down. This is the 3-day. The candle was breaking down the EQ. This is when you would see that reverse or break down, okay? And right now, it's trying to reverse out of this, okay? This is kind of the line. This is a line in the sand for sure. If it wicks down below that and comes back up and closes, that's really solid. Okay, that shows that the people showed up at the party at the last minute. They brought their cash to buy in and popped it back up. Now this still has a day and 5 hours left, so we're not going to know how this closes for a little while still till tomorrow. But right now, the way it looks is that people are showing up to the dance, bringing in the longs, and pushing price back up. That would be great to see this wick and close above, in my opinion, because I don't think this is done yet. This should have some room to run. If it starts to break down, then we can maybe see this really kind of range for quite a while in this area here, and just literally be maybe in the 80s, back to the 90s, kind of the 80s, like do that for some time. You could do that for another month or two. And I've told you, and I've been saying that, I feel like we were going to have some downfall coming. Well, that downfall obviously came a lot sooner because it came in December. I thought it would be in January. Well, maybe the downfall was happening. Does it continue, or does it start to rise up, go through January into February, and then start to come down? I don't know. But for right now, it's starting to hold up pretty strong. We're starting to see some real strong support. Okay. On the daily of Bitcoin, okay. So now we have the flat ABC, and we have the breakdown here, which is what we're looking for. It does need to get above that 50 MA though. You can see that was the moving average. That now it's below the 50. So that's kind of a sign of potential downfall in some cases. I'm going to show you something right now. I've seen this a lot on Twitter too, and I've talked about this before. You know me, I go back and review certain things. this was the area that we have similar price action that I've noticed that people are bringing up that is also in December, right? So we had this December right here, and then January movement. Well, look how the 50 MA did here. It held up a little bit, it broke down, it tested, and then it broke down some more to complete the correction, and then it went back up again. Okay, and it was all in this range, right? And it was like this ending, diagonal to finish off that wave. Well, fast forwarded back to now. It's looking very similar, and I've seen people post this that it looks similar to that time, and that's true. It does. Okay, so what we need to see follow through it. Remember, it tested that 50 MA and broke down some more. This could still do the same. I have this not even hitting the 382 yet. Now, if this is a flat, the 382, it doesn't technically need to get that low because this is a flat because the B is way up here. So really, we want to kind of see this line break, in my opinion, to actually start getting bullish again. Okay, so something like that. That's a pretty important line, in my opinion, because if we break that, it will probably put us above the 50 MA, and then even maybe this EQ, it might tap that. So that's probably where we're going to start seeing something happen. So now, if it really wants to ramp up and start doing it sooner than later, that's fine by me. I don't care, but it's probably going to take a little bit more time to get there. Okay, this is the daily. Check this out. Remember how last time we talked about changing the candles to the Heiken Ashi candles? And I'm not even kidding you. I was literally talking about this candle, how it was green, and how we should start watching to see if reds come in. Well, the next candle was red. It's crazy. The timing of that was really good. And sure enough, it showed us a reversal, and it really started coming down. We obviously all know that now. But these candles are really kind of giving us some guidelines in a way to what's happening. And look, it's still really red, right? It's showing a lot of wicks though, which is nice. But we want to see how the next day candle starts to open and close, and if it's going to test this orange line or not. Okay, because if we break the orange line and we get that, if we break the orange line with some real good pop, it's probably going to get back above the 50 MA. That's going to be a good sign. All right, so that's the confirmation that we're looking for right now. It appears to be a good sign to possibly jump in on something, but this is more confidence on the daily with those candles. Okay, so that is that there. Locally on Bitcoin, I went to the 2-hour here because I'm just kind of being patient. Here, let me say something here. I think the last time in my video I talked about where we were starting to break down. I was right here, finding these tops and looking at this. Really was obviously key to see this breakdown. I had my orange line there and then start to really break down. I even talked about it coming here and then bouncing back. I mean, it really followed that pattern really nice, and it was a good opportunity. By the way, I know people are talking about head and shoulders. There might have been one here. I am not on. I'm not feeling that we're in a head shoulders right now overall. That's not where I'm at. Just a heads up. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Locally here, we went into another range. We've been really breaking down, but let's go to that 2-hour. Sorry. Okay, so we're in to me, it looks like we're in now a Wyckoff accumulation. Okay, we kind of came down, selling climax. Preliminary support is up here, and that's usually where the top of the range will be. So you can see that the automatic retest was in that same area, so that's key. We came down and came back up again, so this is kind of like a longer phase B. Tapped it again, and then came down, and then we broke down, and the breakdown candle had some really good volume, right? it's a little bit higher than that one, and then it shot back up with some kind of following up with the volume. So right now it's looking good, but it's not saying reversal yet, in my opinion. Okay, this looks good, but it doesn't look like okay, I'm in my opinion, yet. We need it. You can see here. This is why it's so important to identify um, support resistance. Over the weekend, I was watching this area here. See all these wicks? This is 2 hour, by the way. And then it broke out, and then it broke back down again. Well, now it's tapping it. Okay, that's not that right now. It technically this is where shorts would come in and say, "Oh, this was resistance." In the short mind state, this is support. Right? If I invert the scale, look what's happening. It's finding support on a reverted scale. Okay, that's and then you could put a short here and then you can keep going up, or if it breaks down, just get out of it. You would probably put your stop loss maybe at the pivot, right? Or maybe below this wick, essentially. Because if it gets above that, it's probably going to keep going down to the R1. So that's probably when you want to get out of it. But right now it's finding support because this is an inverted scale. If I go back to the scale, it's finding resistance. Okay, but I will tell you this though. This is what I do like. First of all, I told you that my teal wedges are more of a compression wedge. It's not a tradable wedge. It's kind of like the MA. It's something to see. I like to see it where price is literally just staying and it's compressing into an area where it needs to go somewhere. Okay, it was literally just here, 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 and the price was starting to compress, and then it dropped down, and then immediately went back up again. You're going to have that in these compression wedges. You're going to have this crazy action at the bottom of them, and it's normally depending on the direction of the wedge is the direction it's going to go in the opposite direction. So it's because it's a downward wedge, it typically will go to the upside. But what's really nice is that it came down here, it broke the green range, and then immediately came back up with super strong candle spread, but like not even that, like half the volume. So shorts literally just ran out of funds, right? People are trying to sell, and everyone's like, "No, we're buying. This is the perfect time to buy." And boom. What I do like about this is that I drew a white range here. It came down, it started to range here and broke down. It came back up, it tapped the range and found it as resistant, came back down and then shot through it. And not only did it go back into the range, but it actually went above it. Okay, this is good. So see what it does is it goes through the range, it literally crushes through it, it finds this resistance. What I want to see is it kind of coming back down to it, right? And then we go. So that's going to be probably my long would be back down here at about 93.4. So this might not come back down really quickly. It might kind of take a little bit of time because it's kind of outside of this compression wedge, maybe. It's not really support, but it kind of is in a way. It's hard to explain. But ultimately, it's going to kind of come down here a little bit, and it's going to kind of come back into this cluster, and that's probably going to be the go time. So this is maybe like a 1, 2, and look for the 3. Okay, when I go to the 1 hour, boom, there we go right there. So we got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the, okay, well, maybe it goes 5 to the pivot, and then it comes back down for 2, back into this cluster again, and then we go. So right now it looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the pivot. So it's going to break this orange again. It's going to come back down. It might find it as support. That actually, it could be a shorter one. It could be a shorter pullback. That's going to be interesting. It could be a shorter pullback, and that might be a go time at the orange. I don't know. But right now it's finding, look at this. It's finding really good support right at the tip of all these wicks. Look at that. Like that is great to see. If this holds here, it's only got another 3 more minutes left to close this candle. That's pretty strong, actually. people are probably entering right here and seeing this as a good support line, which I don't blame them at all. It seems like a great spot to buy, and it literally is right where it needs to be. Um, Gosh, I might even come in here too and just put it up. You know what? I might even do the same and just come in here and put my stop loss right under this one, because it doesn't look like it can get that low. If it got that low, I mean, I guess technically it can come down to this green. I thought it might come down to the green, but it never did because it's really bullish, right? So anyway, I think it's going to go to the pivot and probably pull back one more time, because this looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get the 2. And it's probably going to be a short too. It really does look like it. If this thing's starting to really reverse, it's going to be a short too. Sorry, let me change this. Yeah, see, 5 is down here if it goes to the pivot. Yeah, see, that's interesting. I wonder if it's going to really kind of do a little, maybe it breaks out and kind of higher than the pivot, then it wicks above it and comes back down because there's all this green here. I don't know. We're going to see something here really soon. It's obviously doing a nice hammer right now for 4, and it's going to go probably to this green here, and then probably come back down again. So that's where I'm at with Bitcoin. This is close. I think actually Vince might have just went long on this, which I don't blame him. This looks like a great spot to go long. I was doing this video, just didn't see this part here, so I might even do the same. Honestly, it looks like looks great. Some alts. Dot. I posted about Dot here on our channel. It broke down, and now it's trying to get back above it. It is struggling a little bit though. Okay, but what I want to see it come back up, hold it, support it, break out. Okay, because this orange is still really good. It did a little fake out breakout here though on the orange line, downward line. That's not a good sign in my opinion, and that's why we saw the breakdown. But it's trying to bounce, but it's struggling. So this is something to watch for alts, because maybe alts are kind of bleeding against Bitcoin right now, and Bitcoin's kind of is now the driver for a little bit. So that's why we might see this. So this is interesting. I'm just kind of watching this right now. AVAX looked really good, and AVAX on the other hand is much better than Dot because it broke down the green and came back up and closed, and now it's trying to get above this wedge here. This is another one of those compression wedges. So this is nice to see it hit the pivot and come back down and then kind of go. So that's really nice. This is on the 2 hour. Here's the 1 hour, 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like it's working also on a 4, back 5, and then back here again. I can already tell you right now that this is really good support and resistance here. Look at that. See, you gotta identify these. I'm telling you, this is good. I'm just gonna move it down a little bit more. So it's in there right now. That's why I want to see it to go to pivot and come back to this. That would be very solid to see. It's just closed, so we're going to see what's going to happen here. It came back and tested this area, so it's probably done. It might want to keep going up here, and it's going to break out of this and then come back to test it. That's what the long's going to be. We want to see the breakout and then test and add as a support. Right now it's resistance. Okay, so this is risky to come in right now, even though it looks like it's going to go up, right? It still is in resistance right now. Now, it appears that even this wick, look at all these wicks, so it could still go up and wick back down. But it does appear that it wants to go up to the pivot, maybe even a little higher than that, and then come back down and test this area, and that would be the long area. So that is where I'm at with AVAX. I'll come back to that later. TIA, love TIA right here so much. It's so good. This looked like the one, and then all the pullback. So A, B, C. So good. And this orange line is a big, long resistance line. And even though it didn't really break out, it still kind of held it, which is nice. I really thought it was starting to break down, but it's a nope. And now on the 4 hour, it closed engulfing less volume. Okay, this is good. Because this is what I thought was happening, was that we were having this pullback as a 2, and that we were gonna. I thought the bottom was here, but once I started seeing this action, I was like, oh, that's weird. And I thought maybe it'd come down to S1, but it didn't. It just barely went down here, and this is down the bottom, and now it does this really nice engulfing candle. Okay, so that's important to see. And now it looks like it wants to break out above this pivot. So in this case on TIA, what you want to see is a nice strong breakout of the pivot, hit the R1, and possibly come back to retest the pivot, and then that's going to be a long opportunity, right? With the stop loss, of course. But see that this is kind of like that EQ is kind of showing us some resistance. Okay, so that's the same idea as the last one. Okay, so there's just alts are usually they run with each other, but there's certain times where you will see better opportunities in certain alts and not so good opportunities in others. Well, that's why I'm talking about like TIA and what have you. Chili's is another one where we had a really strong compression wedge on a larger scale, and then we have a kind of a mini one, a wedge within a wedge, right? I told you like wedges within wedges, where it's here and starting to break out too. It's another one where the pivot is in a good spot to where we see it break, tap the R1, come back to test it. It's early in the week too. That's a very good sign to continue to keep going. So we want to see this continue to keep moving up and start breaking above resistance. Okay, because we want that resistance to turn into support. Again, another place where it's right around here. Okay, this is another spot for it. Okay, like right there it looks like. Okay, so these are identifiable things. You don't even need to know about Elliott wave in this case. This is just standard price action, honestly. On the Elliott wave side, this looks like an ABC. That's where I was kind of questioning all this, but we'll have to kind of see. This could be an A, this could be a 1 and then a flat A, B, C there. That's actually where I think I'm going with this, is that this is 1, A, B, C. So this is a big flat here. Okay, because it barely got one below all these, just barely, and then it had another engulfing candle. Matic is another one I'm watching. This had a nice accumulation range in green. Okay, it's also got a really nice wedge, and it tried to break out and it closed below. That's not always a bad thing. That means that it broke resistance with the downward line, right? And now it wants to push through it still. So it's like it broke the ice, essentially. See how it wants to keep going? Look, it's trying to do it again. Okay, so this should actually probably pop here pretty quickly, in my opinion. And then we're going to want to see that also get above the pivot, also hit the R1, and then also kind of come down and test. So this is like kind of doing a 1, 2. This is probably going to have a really strong another candle here. In my opinion, that's looking good. This orange up here is really strong resistance, though. That is a big line in the sand. So a lot of these things aren't out of the woods yet. They're still in the woods, even if they do all this here. It still has to get above this orange. One that I found over the weekend is Verge, or I found it maybe last week. And it had this really nice A, B, C, like flat, or maybe, I'm sorry, this was a 5. Now, what I think it's doing is it's got a 1. Here, let me zoom out. Okay, here it is. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pull back, right to the 50. Now I thought that this might be a B, but this looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this could be a 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's why then I'm like, oh, as this was breaking down, because this looks like an A, B, and then C. I was like, oh, this looks good, right? But it's finding resistance right now on this level, so it could continue to come down, and this could be the flat. But that's why. But then I see that this being a really nice wedge here. This is a really nice wedge. You even got it coming down and then up again to the B, and then back, and then remember I told you it goes into a range, and then it taps the top of that range from the distribution side of it, and then it comes down one more time. So see how it's starting to try to get through the resistance here, right near this down resistance of the wedge orange. Okay, this is a double resistance at the same spot. Okay, if it wants a breakthrough is solid here because we're going to see a breakthrough of all of this, probably even the pivot if it wants to go through, and then it's going to come back down and hold as a support, and then that's go time. All right, so this is going to be good. This is a very clean wedge into resistance. This looks like a 1-2 here, a smaller 1-2 maybe. So this would be a 3, which should get us to this green. You know, probably up to the green or right around here. Looks like there might be something kind of going in this area maybe, but it's kind of weak. It's all right. It's not bad. So that's probably where we'll find a little bit of resistance. But if this wants to break out, it should come up here and do its thing above the pivot. Kind of like this. Maybe, you know, I don't know, like that, maybe kind of break out. Something like that. I don't know, but it's got to break out obviously first. If it doesn't and it wants to break down, then I definitely like the S1 here too, because the S1 is just barely below this. So that's not a bad spot either. I'm not, you know, I'm feeling good about the breakdown or I'm feeling good about the breakout here. So in both cases, that's a good sign. So like right around here. So that's like the 0.0118, I guess you want to call it, right around there. 1.7. And that's still around this 50. I mean, look, it's got all this support here, so that's a good spot to be. That S1 is good. So if it can't really find a breakout here on this resistance, and this is not a, maybe the wedge is not true and it wants to break down, that's okay. I'm not gonna, you know, it's fine. I mean, it's really struggling to get through, but it just needs to pop out for sure. Right now, it might still be in the 2. What I mean by that is that it still might be working a 1, A, B, C, maybe back down to like fill like a gap here maybe, and then pop out. That's usually actually what happens in wedges. Now that I think about it, is in wedges it does this. It will go like this, and it'll go like this, and then it'll go up. Okay, that happens a lot in wedges. Is it kind of has this. It kind of will come back, especially when they have this large candle and come back. It might kind of fill that candle back up again, and find that these are where all the buyers will come in, and then it will pop up. That's typically what happens in a wedge is you'll have something like that. So that's not terrible to see this. Last is XRP. Um, this is really looking like a triangle, okay? And it looks like the triangle's done. It's a kind of a nasty looking triangle, to be honest with you. It's not that clean, but it still counts as a triangle. A, B, C. This is the D. This is your E. Okay, I know it's kind of funky, but it's right now it's still fine because it's, you know, it made its 1 2 3 and it's made its 1 2 3 back down again. So this could be the triangle finish. This is on the daily too. All right. We started seeing it breaking down below this E, right, and below A. Obviously, this is all invalid. But if we start to really see this start to move up again, and here I'm going to show you guys something. Probably like right here. Looks like there's maybe a little bit of a resistance here. Remember I told you about those compression wedges? That's kind of like what's happening here. It's like that. Okay. That's kind of the price compression. So I think that's happening there. Yeah, it definitely looks like that. I don't know. It's really funky, but either way, this definitely looks like this was the C, D, and then this was E, and right at the S1 too. Look at that. That's what got pivots up. The hourly pivot hit the S1, golfing candle on the 4-hour closed with less volume. This looks like it wants to move up too. Look at the Fisher curled. Everything's curling up. Even the 4-hour RSI dipped into oversold just barely here. This looks great. I would say that this is probably going to go to pivot. You come back down. Well, you don't obviously want it to break down, of course. But the breakout of the pivot is very, very important here on XRP. So you kind of want something like this, maybe. You wanted to go out and break out strong, hit this R1, so something like that, and then hit this, maybe come back to the pivot. So I don't know. This is not out of the woods either, but it's definitely like this is the area that it would start to do these things. Okay, so it's still early. But yeah, that kind of looks like a compression wedge in a way. It kind of does. It's kind of sloppy though. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. I like clean. I like it to look more clean. Anyway, so that's where we're at. I will tell you this though, if you're looking at XRP and you're wanting to jump in, here's one more thing that I just saw here. I don't know why I don't have it marked. Look at that. Okay, so that's important right there. Okay, and look what it's doing. It's hitting it. Okay, don't get fooled. All right, this isn't out of the woods yet. This is a nice candle, but it needs to continue up out of here. If it does, and it continues and breaks the pivot and finds the R1 and comes back to test this, that's solid. That's a great entry point in my opinion. But right now, this was a very strong support, as you can see, like a lot here. It even goes back to here technically, right? So this is an important level here. All right, if it gets back above, all good. If it keeps being rejected here, then you can see some more downside. So I'm optimistic. I think that this is going to go up. I like how this is. I like where RSI is at. See, RSI is important too. Our indicators, right, are so important because it's showing that it's low. If it was like way up here and we're like here, like if RSI was up here and doing this, I would be like, oh, it looks like there might be some more downside just by looking at RSI. But because RSI is curling on all three indicators, and on the bearish indicator, on the bear indicator up top, it's breaking down the MA. So it looks like it wants to go down. That's reverse. That's an inverse RSI. So this is all looking like it wants to keep going, according to RSI and according to price action. All right, that's what I got. An hour is what this took. It was a lot of things to go over. I do hope that you're having a great time with the family. You saw the little man come in. He wants to go and do some things and show me some things. So I'll have to get back to him, obviously. But yeah, it's been good. Yeah, look at Bitcoin's going to kind of come back to this real quick. Yeah, Bitcoin's doing what we talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's breaking that orange right now. Yeah, that was a good. This retest right here, that 1 hour retest candle was a good entry. It was a really good entry. I'm kind of bummed I missed that, to be honest with you. It's going to be fine though. There's obviously going to be there's going to be another point because this looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to probably come back down to this orange once it breaks above here and retest it. Now it might go above the pivot and then come back down. I don't know, but this is looking great. This looks like it's wanting to. That was a good entry back. Obviously this was down good here, but to see this follow through and kind of come into this cluster, yeah, that's perfect to see. Perfect to see. So anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, a wonderful day. Hopefully this helps you out a lot. Don't forget about those stock ideas that I had. Let's keep those on the radar and let's keep moving forward and see what STEM does too. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.